Hello and welcome to what I think is episode 13, though to be honest I've kind of rather lost count at the moment due to the irregular recordings that are coming out. At the moment I seem to be managing about one recording every 6 months. The past 6 months for me have been very difficult, family stuff, and I'm not going to go into because you're here for the knitting, and I finally do actually have some knitting to talk about. So today there are a couple of things I'm going to be talking about. Some new designs that I've been working on and publishing. I'm going to be talking about the Knit Tea retreat that seems like an age ago, but was actually only June, so only a couple of months ago. And also about the work of BirdStreetUK and Mr. B Yarns. So I will get on to all of that. If you have just stumbled across this podcast for the first time, very much welcome. My name is Charlie. I'm also known as Yarn Ambassador on Instagram and on Ravelry as Chalice. If you don't already know, the main brief for this podcast was to showcase the work of independent yarn dyers around the UK, and I hope to knit up samples and be able to talk about the work they're doing. Life totally gets in the way sometimes, right? And the brief has somewhat changed. So as I said, I'm going to be talking about an independent yarn dyer this month, week, episode, whatever, but also about other knitty projects that I'm working on. As always, best laid plans don't always come good, which is why this has slightly descended into chaos already. So I'm going to talk about my designs. This year has been for me the year of pattern designing. I started in January with the Normal People sweater, which I spoke about on my previous podcast. That was a Aran weight, big roll neck, slightly cropped drop sleeve sweater. And since then it's kind of just kept on going. The first one I'm going to talk about is after that. So my second garment design is the Batwing sweater. So here it is. It's a very, very loose gauge drapey top. So it's a fingering weight pattern, but it's done on 4mm needles, which means you just zoom through it. It's very, very fast. There are no seams. It's knit in the round until you get to the sleeves, and then you split for the front and back. And one of the things that I really wanted to work on with my designs is size inclusivity. And because of the nature of this top, I was able to incorporate sizes going way, way up the scale, because this is worn with something like 30 inches negative ease or something around the bust, which means the biggest size finished measurements around the bust are something like 90 inches. So I really wanted to make sure that with my garments and my knitting pattern designs that they were open for everybody and they look good on everybody as well. So that was the aim, and I think I achieved that. I'm really, really chuffed with this. It has what I call a moss stitch. Can you see that? Moss stitch little hem details, and on the cuffs as well, and a little bit around the neckline, and it's totally reversible, so you don't even need to worry about how you get dressed in the morning. You can literally just throw it on. And I have to say, I wore this a lot throughout the spring. Worked very well with skinny jeans, and also for those kind of intermediate days where it's not warm but you kind of still want a layer as well. So I would just wear it with a vest top on underneath. It kind of does, I'll insert some images here because it's better to see when it's on a person. It kind of, you can make it a little bit off the shouldery. It doesn't have to be, but it's quite kind of loosely fitting over the shoulders. So that is the first one, and that is called the Batwing sweater. Can you guess why I called it the Batwing sweater? So yeah, I'm really chuffed with this, and I think this is going to be a really, really wearable piece. So that came out, I think that came out in May, would it have been? Early May. If you haven't already had a chance to go and check it out, it's on my Ravelry designs. Confusingly, my Ravelry designs are published under Charlie Button Knits. Charlie Button is what my sister used to call me when I was a little kid. And for a while I was doing knit kits for beginner knitters, and they were called Charlie Button knit kits. And so the patterns for those were published on Ravelry as Charlie Button Knits. And so these have come out under the same name. How many names can one person have? So I'm Chellis, I'm Yarn Ambassador, and also Charlie Button Knits. So I'll try and clear that up in the show notes and make sure you know who you're looking for. But essentially, I'm all the same person. So yeah, that's the Batwing. If I haven't already, I will insert some pictures through the power of editing here. They're mostly of me trying to look moody and cool. I don't know how much I actually succeeded on that. I think I just looked a bit like a numpty. But yeah, really, really chuffed with that. And then not long after this came out, I started working on another top, and obviously where we're heading into summer, and I wanted to be able to wear my hand knits, wear merino throughout the summer. Merino and wool is incredibly breathable, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be worn in the summer, but obviously some concessions have to be made. So I designed this, which I have called the Canicule sweater. Canicule in French means heat wave, which is kind of appropriate when my test knitters were working on this. I think it was the hottest week ever. Caroline, who's based in the Netherlands, was knitting this in like 40-degree heat. So I can only thank all of them for doggedly going on in the hottest week of the year. But again, this is a fingering weight short-sleeved tee. I'll insert some pictures. I'm not going to try and stand up because I did that before. I hit my head on the light and knocked over some stuff. So I'm going to insert some pictures so you can see what the whole thing looks like. It's again fingering weight, done on 4mm needles against, I think that's right, yeah. So it's very, very kind of airy and drapey, which is kind of what you want in the summer. You don't necessarily want something with a really, really close knit. And also, let's not forget, it's mostly because I like quick results, and if you're knitting fingering weight on a bigger size needle, you get quicker results. But it does give it that drape and ease that I wanted. Short kind of capped sleeves over the top, and then there's a split hem detail at the bottom. And I'm really, really chuffed with how this one turned out as well. I wasn't really expecting to like it as much as I did. It's also quite long, right? There is the big trend for the cropped sweater, and I do love wearing a cropped sweater sometimes, but also I do just like a sweater that will hide a multitude of sins under it and come down over my bottom. So that is what I designed, and this released on, I think it was the 2nd of August I published it. And the response so far has been brilliant. So I'm so grateful to everyone who's already gone out and purchased this. I'm really made up with it. And I also want to offer everybody who's watching a 20% discount off all my patterns. Well, off my garment patterns. The other ones aren't really for sale. They're on there, but they're for free. Anyway, doesn't matter. So my 3 garments, the normal people sweater, the Batwing sweater, and the Canicule tee, there'll be 20% off for all viewers of this. I think probably for the duration of August, because it seems like a nice thing to do. So that's what I'm going to do. But I wanted to talk about the yarns that I used to make both of these. as I mentioned at the top, I started out with the podcast hoping to showcase the work of independent yarn dyers in the UK, which was mostly just an excuse for me to go out and amass a lot of yarn that had been independently dyed in the UK. And so I've had a lot of it sitting in my stash being like, right, I will get round to doing a podcast on so-and-so and so-and-so. But as you know, I haven't really got round to doing that. But in my stash, I had a lot of sock weight yarn from the wonderful BirdStreetUK and Mr. B's yarns. And both of these tops, so the Batwing and the Canicule tee, use BirdStreetUK Mr. B's yarns. They are a husband and wife couple. I believe Claire sometimes makes project bags, and Mr. B, her husband, does the yarn dye, but the business is theirs altogether. I believe he used to be a head teacher, but has now moved to full-time yarn dyeing. And their colourways and their colour palettes just really caught my eye. What they do really well are strong kind of background colours, tonal colours. So this has got this beautiful, rich, heathered kind of tones, and it's so wearable. I love a really strong variegated yarn, but often, and particularly in garment use, you can often get pooling, which can look brilliant, is not always my thing. What I love about Mr. B's yarns and BirdStreetUK is that they're very wearable. You have these flashes of colour, pops of colour, but the whole piece together makes quite a kind of, not a solid canvas, but a more tonal canvas. So the Batwing was using their sock yarn. Now this is in a colourway called Heathered, and because I'm so frigging slow at pulling stuff together, I believe this colourway has now been discontinued. I did check with Claire, and I think they've changed their dye supplier, so I don't think they're doing this particular one anymore. But I still wanted to show it and talk about it because it does give you a kind of foundation for how they work, how they put colours together. I'll bring it up as close as I can. Can you see it's got like flecks of orange, tiny flecks of orange, darker purple, this beautiful kind of aubergine colour. And I think that was called Heathered. And I believe you can't get that any longer. So sorry, but it gives you an idea of their kind of style, their colour palette and what they do. The Canicule tee uses one of their colourways, which I know they're still doing, or at least is one of their repeatables, I believe. And this is called We're Going on a Bear Hunt, which is a children's book, a children's story picture book that my nephews love, my nieces love. And this is kind of inspired by the beautiful illustrations from that book. And I believe that BirdStreetUK did like a whole series of colourways that were inspired by children's books. So there was a Where the Wild Things Are, and I can't remember the other ones, but they were great. And so and this has got this kind of aquary grey with flecks of little. Shall I try and approach? Probably not. That just makes me look really chesty. But you can kind of see the effect. It's subtly variegated, but it just works really nicely to create a really nice palette. So those were the two kind of sweater quantities that I had. And in fact, the Canicule tee only took two full skeins. I made the size 2 from my pattern, and I just used, it was a bit of yarn chicken. Obviously I had a third skein, so I wasn't that worried about it, but I just squeezed it in 2 skeins, so bear that in mind. Anything above the size 3, I think you're definitely going to be needing 3 skeins for that. So yeah, I've ended up with 2 wonderful garments from BirdStreetUK, and Mr. B's yarns. And I do have some others, colourways of them. Now again, because I've been so tardy in getting round to showcasing their yarn, it's been in my stash and I've been kind of admiring it and bringing it out to use for designs or whatever it might be. So again, I have dropped a line to Claire this morning to see if any of these are still repeatable colourways, but again, even if they're not, it should give you a good kind of idea of their colourways. So this one is a really beautiful blue, greeny, there's a kind of teal in here, up there, yeah, there we go, and this one's called Peacock, and it's a very kind of regal royal blue, really deep. I think I'm going to use this to make a shawl with, because I've found some shawls that kind of mimic peacock wingspans, and I think that would just look absolutely fabulous in that. A really rich regal royal blue with the teals, like peacocks are, regal and fabulous. So again, and you can see it's much more tonal than it is variegated, very kind of subtle colour changes. The other one they did a kind of trilogy of, I think, or they did kind of various iterations of, was something called Urban Decay, which is really fabulous. I'm actually going to take the sleeve off so you can see, but this is on a background of pale blues with darker blues, and there are these like spots of almost fluorescent green going through them, kind of a rusty orangey fleck through there, and I love the kind of name Urban Decay. It's got something really kind of quite grungy and cool about it. So I think this will become a pair of socks. I think that would make a lovely pair of socks. But again, really, really subtle and kind of sophisticated colour palette. Really nice. And then the final one I have, again, I will try and make a note if these aren't any longer available, but I suggest you do go and check out their Etsy shop, which I will put a link to see what they have in available. So this is almost like a bit of a taster of what they are, but no promises that you'll be able to get the exact same colourways as you're seeing here. So this one is called Foraging for Berries, and this kind of looks like my nephew's t-shirt when we have been foraging for berries. Little bits of kind of squished blackberries and black currants and blueberries and things. So it's a really nice kind of, if you got some berries and threw them at a white canvas, what would it look like? And that's kind of it. So again, I think that would work really nicely in a fade. So this one might just stay precious in the stash for a while. So that's just a kind of a snapshot of BirdStreetUK. They've recently started vending at yarn shows. So I know that this year they were at Yarningham and at Fibre East, they just got back from, and I think they've been totally cleared out. I went and had a look at their Etsy shop, which does have yarn in, but it's not as full as it normally is. So I think they're going to be spending August kind of catching up and restocking their shop. So you can follow them on Instagram as well. I think it's BirdStreetUK is Claire, and then there's Mr. B Yarns as well. They do have a podcast as well. So Claire and Mr. B and Claire's sister, who's Bexy Norms, I think she is, on Instagram. So that's a really fun podcast to watch. Lots of ideas. She did a Becky, I don't know what you prefer to be called, but she did this amazing Zweig sweater that was just monochrome. It didn't use the colour work, and it just looked fabulous. Like, what a brilliant idea to do. So yeah, check out their podcast. It's really good fun. So that's kind of a nice way. Look at all the things I did manage to make from BirdStreetUK, and I'm sorry it took so long that some of these are now discontinued. I gotta watch that. It's a sage lesson. When you get the yarn podcast about it, don't wait for 2 years. Sorry. So that's that. What else did I want to? Oh, there's been a lot going on the knitty side of things as well. So in early June we had the Knit Tea Retreat. So this was the second weekend retreat organised by the lovely Zoe and Jenny, who run the Knit Tea Retreat. Zoe is Pins and Needles UK, has a brilliant podcast. Jenny is All About Yarn, also has a podcast and creates yarn, and both of them are pattern designers as well. But they are fabulous retreat organisers as well. So this was the second one. The first one, you might remember, was back in Cardiff last October, and this one was in Stratford, and we just had the best time. It was lovely. So the one in October has classes you can sign up to, and is more kind of focused on learning new skills. The one in Stratford was just about chilling out and knitting and chatting. There's always a marketplace. Brilliant. It was really, really nice. And actually it was because of the Knit Tea Retreat, I kind of got the kick I needed to write up this pattern, because I had worn this top just to kind of test the waters and see what the response was, right? And the response was really, really nice. Everyone was so positive about the top. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll write it up and turn it into a pattern. And 4 out of the 5 test knitters who worked on this for me are Knit Tea Retreaters. So I'm hoping that when we all come together in Cardiff in October, because that's when the next one is, and I'm going to that too, we can have a group photo of all of the Canicule teas, although I imagine it might not be so heat wavy then. Mind you, last October was super heat wavy. It was absolutely roasting in Cardiff. And everybody had come with their knits, you know, ready to show off. And we'd all have to strip down because it was absolutely roasting, like it sometimes can be in October. But we're not really expecting that to happen again, I don't think. One sunny October in Cardiff, you know, that might be it for another couple of years. So we had a brilliant time there. Met loads of lovely people, chatted with folks and just relaxed, and it was something I really needed, a kind of weekend away from everything, just to knit and just talk about knitting. And I got so much inspiration from what other people were working on, what they were planning, the yarns that were there. There's always a marketplace, which is one of the most exciting parts of it, and that's always open to the public. So whether you manage to get a place on one of the Knit Tea Retreats or not, you can always come along to the marketplace, and there are about maybe 8-10 vendors there. So it's not massive, but it's actually really nice because you get to spend time at each and every one of the stalls rather than like having the fear of missing out at the bigger shows. So Dusty Dimples, Aisha from Dusty Dimples was there. Lay Family Yarns was there. She was also attending the retreat. Met the lovely Fee from Flourish Fibres as well. I'm actually probably going to do my next podcast on her yarns, because I thought it might be too much to cram into this one. So watch out for that one in the future, and I'll try and make sure that the yarns aren't discontinued at that stage. But what was really exciting is that Zoe and Jenny, who are super industrious, like I just don't know how they fit it in, they have brought out a yarn, their own yarn. They went to the wool depot, they've got fleece, and they've had it made up into their own branded yarn, which they've called Cartrev. Hope I'm saying that right, Jenny. Cartrev, which I believe means home, is that right? But it's 100% Welsh Mule. Let me just double check. Hang on. Oh, bending. Non-superwash Welsh DK. That's right. Surrey. It is not 100% Welsh Mule. It's 66% Welsh Mule and 33% Blue-Faced Leicester. Wowzers. So I got a little bit carried away. Caveat, I haven't been to any of the other yarn shows this year. So the Knit Tea Retreat was my only kind of exposure to, well, I mean, aside from Etsy and Instagram and stuff, but it was the only physical yarn shopping experience I had. So I did go a little bit crazy. But also, so this is their, can you see that? Cartref yarn. That's their ball band. And I really wanted to get some of this because they'd launched it at Wonderwool. Is that right? Is that the one that's in Wales? They launched it at Wonderwool and I wasn't there, and I was like super panicky. There wasn't going to be enough left at the Knit Tea Retreat because they obviously only had a limited number. It's DK weight, and Jenny has done a fabulous job dyeing up. I think there are maybe 6 or 7 colourways. And I got a sweater quantity, and I'm doing quite well. Although, because it has been so hot, I have had to calm down the knitting on this top because it's going to be super toasty. This is going to be a super toasty one. Why is that focusing on there? No idea. Right, so this is my simple Sinister sweater. So this is designed by, let me get it right, Marna Gilligan, who you may also know as Ancatin. Oh, sorry, massacred that one. But she makes beautiful jewellery for knitters, and but she's brought out these patterns and they are so cool. So this is her DK weight version of the Sinister cat sweater. And I don't know if you can see, look, there are little Sinister cats peeking their eyes up, which I really like because it's kind of subtle, right? From far away, it just looks like a yoked sweater with a little bit of design, but the closer you look, and these do appear really rather sinister on here, given they've got shining red eyes. So this is the Cartref yarn. So this top colour here is called Drake, which I think means dragon, and is their kind of rich, reddy, really beautiful kind of strong red, like a Welsh dragon red, which I feel is what it was aiming for. And then this beautiful tonal here, I love me a good grey and I love me a good charcoal, and just look how fabulous that is. So this is a kind of tonal grey, and this, I thought this was called coal, which would make sense, right? Because it's kind of charcoaly and grey and coaly. But then the ball band says sapphire, so I'm not really quite sure what's going on there. Hopefully I can get some clarification from Jenny and Zoe before I put this up. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this sweater. So as you can see, I've got almost a sleeve done, another sleeve not done, but I'm just taking things slowly on that because it's very hot, very hot. And I'm hoping that in Cardiff, it's going to be cold enough to wear this. It will definitely be finished before Cardiff, famous last words, but I really want it to be finished by then. And so it needs to cool down a bit. If it's as hot as it was last year, this isn't really going to be seeing the light of day. But I love it. Absolutely love it. They have limited stocks left of this. I really don't know how much they've got left or if they're even selling it on Etsy. But follow them, Cartref Yarns, I'll put in a link, on Instagram, because I'm sure that will tell you when they've got their kind of next batch in stock. So yeah, really, really chuffed with that and can't wait for it to be cold enough to wear. So that was the Knit Tea Retreat. You can see my mug. I use the mug all the time. I love it. And they gave us really lovely minis. We went on a boat called the Duchess of Evesham. That was just beautiful. Oh, we were so lucky, and it was lovely weather. Again, it was really hot. It just seems to be really warm whenever we do a knit tea retreat. And yeah, like I said, met some really fabulous people. So really looking forward to the next one. It'll be about time for another knitty weekend by the time October comes round. I think there might still be 1 or 2 spaces. Again, keep an eye out at the Knit Tea Retreat on Instagram to find out about them. Then I did have, the first time in ages, I had a couple of days up in Scotland, managed to squeeze in some time between a work trip and something else, and so got to go up to Scotland. And again, I did go a little bit yarn crazy. So I went up to Oban, and there's a delightful little yarn shop in Oban, really quite old school, but they have some Hebridean wool, like just big hanks of Hebridean wool, and it's like mystery plied. There aren't any colourways, it's just kind of whatever there is in the basket. And I managed to find, and I think there's something like 150 grams. Is that right? Or are they 200 grams? And with a huge hanks. Sorry, I really unhelpfully put everything behind me. Oh, I don't even know if I can reach it. Excuse me one moment. Right, got it. So this is from the knitting shop in Oban. I think there is only one, so you'll find it, but it's just behind the ferry terminal if you go a little way. And this is Hebridean wool, and it's very, very rustic, right? It's still got a lot of the spinning oil in it. So I'm going to do up a swatch and see how much it relaxes. I think it knits up to an Aran weight. So I think I might use this to make a weekender with. I think I got 3 of these hanks. And me and the lady in the shop had to do quite a bit of digging. Because like I say, it's just, they've obviously spun it and just plied whatever there is together, which gives it this beautiful mould effect, but means that there aren't that many hanks, skeins that are the same. But yeah, that's going to be a weekender, but I need to skein it up, do a swatch. I don't know, who am I? But that's really good fun, and it's really quite bargainous as well, and it's Scottish, and I loved this colourway because it did, when we arrived in Oban, it was really beautiful weather, and you do get this beautiful turquoise water around Mull and the islands around there, and so this kind of really spoke to me, but then it can also turn really dark and grim almost immediately. So this combination, whatever it is, really spoke to me. So that's going to be my special Oban sweater when I get round to it. I've got a lot of sweaters that I want to make. Not enough time. And I've got some more design ideas, but I'm not going to talk about them now because they haven't really fully formed in my head. So anyway, unnamed from a shop in Oban. Sorry, that's the best I can give you. So then we made our way up to Mull on the ferry. I really like island hopping. Ferries are the best way to travel. You can knit on ferries. And you have to go, you can't rush it. It's just, you just go at the speed of the boat. It's nice. Really chills you out. I love it. So then we went up to Mull and drove across the bottom of Mull to the tiny island of Iona, which there aren't really any cars on it. It's only about 2 miles by 3 miles or something. It's really small. We were only there for one night, but they have their own Iona wool. Can you believe it? And as luck would have it, the shop that was selling it was open. And I do love a bit of souvenir yarn. I think I've spoken about that. I find it really hard if I'm in a place, particularly if the yarn is very specific to that place. I find it really hard not to pick up a skein or two. So I did. And got 2 skeins of this Iona wool. Now, I believe somebody said you can get this in Oban as well, in the Iona shop, but because it is, I'm not going to lie, it's quite a trek to get to Iona. But this is all from sheep, from fleeces, from Iona. This is like 100% Iona wool. And look at these. So there's a teal and this kind of mustardy yellow, which I think are going to make some beautiful mittens. And they are so 100% single origin Iona yarn. Swanky, huh? But look at those 2 together. Or maybe a hat. It'd be a fun hat. Defo. Perhaps when I'm not so red. So this is a double knit, but you could also get it in cones. You could also get it undyed. Different weights. There were Aran weights. And what else? There was a fingering weight, I think. So you can look it up online. It's ionacraftshop.com. This colourway is called Lichen, and this colourway is called Sea Green. It's really nice. It's really nice, and that's their double knit. Again, it's quite rusticy feeling, which is why I feel it would be good for colourwork, hat or mitt or something. That's the other thing I wanted to say about the Cartrev, because it's untreated. Like it's non-superwash, it's spun as it is. It works really well on the colour work because it's just that little bit more sticky, you know what I mean? It doesn't slip everywhere, and that lends itself to colour work. So sorry, back to Scotland. Look at that, Iona. Really worth going to Iona. It's really nice. I almost wish we'd stayed there a little bit longer because it was very chilled. It's a really nice chilled place to be. No cars. A really good restaurant. We ate at the Argyle Hotel. Would highly recommend that. It's got this massive monastery. It's all to do with a guy called Columba, St. Columba. I don't know. A lot of pilgrims go there. I was on a wool pilgrimage, which I fulfilled. Then on the way, so if you are doing some kind of road trip and you're heading towards Iona and you're a knitter, do make the time to do a detour on the road to Iona from Craignure to Fionport, where the ferry goes across to Iona. Along there is, now I call it Ardlanish, but apparently that's not how you say it. Ardlanish. I can't remember where the stress goes. So I just say it as I say it, which is Ardlanish, which is wrong. Oh. So I'll show you the bag. So we went to see them. So I know these guys and I've bought yarn from them before, but I'd never seen their setup. They've got this beautiful spot looking out over the sea. There are views to Jura and it was lovely. And their main thing is they weave. They have beautiful wraps, beautiful blankets, stoles, fabrics, tweeds, beautiful. But they also sell their yarn as knitting yarn, which I've worked with before, so I was really pleased to be able to go and find the shop. It's not quite as bad as it looks. This isn't like super full. So there's the thing, Isle of Mull Weavers. If someone can tell me how I'm supposed to be saying that, I'd be most grateful. So they've got some beautiful stuff in there. I bought a cone. So this is 500 grams. So I think I can get a sweater out of this. Do you think? I swear it's Aran weight. It might be a bit tight. I reckon I possibly could though. But this is their natural Aran, and I think this is their undyed. It's 100% wool. I think it might say on the inside what it is. Yeah, it does. Oh no, it just says to hand wash it on the inside. It calls itself New Burach. Not quite sure what that means. You see that? Anyway, so it's always good to have a cone, right? Just lying around to knit from. And look, it's grey. I love it. And the other thing that they had, which I thought was really good fun, was these are obviously like offcuts from the blankets and the things that they're making. Like you can see, it's got the little end. So they've obviously like cut it, like the wastage. They rolled it into a ball, and I was like, oh, I reckon you could do something really fun with that. I don't know quite what yet, but I love the idea of it. So that was just a kind of little leftover thing that I got. Fun. So yeah, if you are heading to Scotland and Mull and Oban, there are 3 places you can stop at. It's brilliant. I love going up there. Last year I went up to the peninsula called Ardnamurchan. Anyway, you go up to the top of Mull to Tobermory and you take the ferry across over there. And there was just one of the community centres that we bobbed into for a cup of tea was just selling skeins of Ardnamurchan yarn. Brilliant. It's just everywhere. It's so wonderful. Everyone go to Scotland and buy yarn. So that is where I am at the moment. Lots of patterns that, and now I never really meant to start designing patterns. It just kind of happened, and now I find it really hard to look at things without thinking about yarn patterns, like designing up yarn patterns. And it's just given me the confidence to be a bit more, just given me confidence with my knitting. Might cut that out. I don't think I've got anything else within reach that I can talk about this time. We're at 42 minutes, so I feel that's probably a good time to sign off. I hope that next time I might have a new design to show you, and also a couple of new, well not new, but a new independent yarn dyer to talk about as well. Thank you so much for staying the course, sticking it out to the end. If you do like any of the patterns, be sure to use that 20% off throughout August. And what else? I'll be back next time. If you have enjoyed this, please do click the like button and subscribe so that in my very irregular recording you will get a little update from YouTube telling you that I've done it. Please do leave any comments, get in touch, and thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Bye.